So good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, I don't speak Dutch. I'm French. So anyway, we're running about a bit late from what I heard, so I'm going to fly as quickly as possible. No, we'll take our time, but I need to go back to the airport. So I'd like you to introduce first Bart, and he will take Q&As because I'm not very clever and I don't really know how to answer questions anyway. So it's better that Bart can do it, and he speaks perfect Dutch, from what I understood. So I know we are in an OpenStack presentation or conference today, but then we were told to speak about what Dell does in the security space. But because I'm clever sometimes, I will show you at the end, so please don't record it. No pictures, nothing, because it's still confidential, to show you what we do as Dell from securing for securing OpenStack from a firewall point of view. Okay, and this is still work in progress, just to show you what we're doing, and therefore I would ask you to kind of keep it for yourself and don't post it on any Twitter or Facebook accounts or whatever social media you might be using. Thank you very much. So really, before we start as well, indeed Dell as a vendor is really big as a cloud provider. Of course, you know, if you look at all these key players, being Google or Bing or Yahoo or whatever these guys are customers of Dell. Of course, Dell is very big in networking, in server and in storage. And when it comes to the cloud, public cloud, private cloud, or hybrid systems, Dell is probably one of the biggest vendors out there. So whether you're already using Dell or not, I don't really know. But just to tell you that we are indeed a big player in the cloud environment. And from an OpenStack point of view, which started back in 2010 or 12, I can't remember, but Dell was definitely one of the first supplier to follow the OpenStack initiatives. Yeah? So we've been playing in that market since the early days of the OpenStack formation, right? And if you look at all the different components, of course, with the servers, the networking, and so on and so forth, but as well, we are partnering with some guys that you probably saw already today, so the SUSE, whatever you say it, obviously with Red Hat. And if some of you are in the telco market, you know, with Red Hat, we have developed some pretty good stuff around, you know, network feature virtualization. Yeah, so if you are from the telco environment, again, you know, with Red Hat and Dell, there's a lot of work that is going on as we speak, okay? So Dell, as a key provider or a key supplier from a cloud point of view or from an OpenStack initiative, by all means, you could come and talk to us, probably not to me or not to Bart, because we're probably not the right guys, but you can speak to our not client, but obviously you can speak to our client if you want to, but to our cloud colleagues, okay? So what do we do from a security point of view that could be of interest depending on where you sit in the organizations? Indeed, if we look at the threats today, you know, if we were going back in the 80s, there was just a bunch of guys or students trying to make a name for themselves, and it was just of an annoyance. There was no problems as such. Over the years, indeed, IT has grown up. The level of the adoption of IT is getting higher and higher. That means the level of threats and attacks is getting bigger, more complex. Why? It's financially driven, so it's becoming a true business. So if you're bored in your job, I'm not, but you might be bored in your job. You know, go and become a hacker. There's a lot of money to be made. Yeah. So these guys are becoming more and more professional, more and more well organized. They have their own support team. They have their own product marketing team. It's serious business, of course. And indeed, I'm not referring to state-driven attacks, like we've seen with Stuxnet, for example, 2 years ago. Yeah. But that means it's becoming serious. And every single of you today in the audience, whether you know it or not, you are probably compromised. Whether your tablet is infected or whether your smartphone has a piece of malware or your network has a spyware and your IT guys have no clue. It takes about 260 days or so, according to Verizon, for an organization to discover they've been breached. Nearly a year. So now you probably breached, you don't know, and then a year later, you would remember that French guys here in Bossum telling you, oh yeah, you were breached. And they say, yeah, he was right, actually. But anyway, so, and then I will obviously save you all the example that you hear in the press. I mean, more recently, it was quite interesting in Norway. There was about 300 oil and gas companies who got hacked. And you know how did they get hacked? And 50 got breached, by the way. just by receiving an email. So phishing attacks, if you are in charge of kind of IT security or security overall, you know, simple mechanisms, simple techniques are still very effective. So what happened is they receive an email that looks like coming from a trusted source. There was an attachment, and if you would have opened the attachment would have exploited any breaches or not breaches, any vulnerabilities in the software that was on that laptop. Bang, job done, just by sending an email. And as I was saying earlier on, it's a true business, it's a true ecosystem. So you have like the hacker-to-hacker business. Again, that's what I'm saying, you know, if you want to get rich and retire in Spain or wherever where it's sunny and warm, become a hacker because there's a lot of money to be made. But indeed, for us as vendors and for you as obviously users and organization, whether you are a 10-user man band or whether you're 100 users or 10,000 user company, you will be a victim. You might become a target. And then again, Bart is quite a smart guy and he wants to compromise KPN. But KPN obviously is a big Dutch company. They probably have their own security teams. They have money, budget, and so on and so forth. But they might deal with a small supplier somewhere in Bossum with maybe 10 users. But Bart is smart because he knows that that small supplier of KPN will have either a VPN connection or also no connection to that big company. So he's going to try to get to KPN through that 10-user company. So if you are a small or medium-sized business dealing with bigger organizations, you might get compromised, not to compromise you, but try to use you as a way to the bigger company. And indeed, if you breach and that big KPN knows that you got breached, they will say, well, I can't deal with you anymore because you were not secure enough. You didn't respect your terms and conditions, business goes down. Anyway. So, but we live in a very connected world. Of course, social media, mobility, cloud, big data. Yeah, IDC refers to the third platforms. So all of this obviously bring a lot of challenge, obviously a lot of benefits. You can check your emails from wherever you are. You can speak to your customers from wherever you are, and so on and so forth. But the problem is, with all these benefits come a big number of challenges that if they're not solved properly, will create chaos. And then we know the individual threats that are targeting laptops, smartphones, tablets. We know that there's a lot of, mobile malwares targeting these kind of devices and so on and so forth. But think as well about social media and any kind of cloud-based application that you might be using for your organization. So stuff like Salesforce.com. Today, I could connect to Salesforce.com using my Facebook credentials. Is it safe? Well, if you have deployed an identity and access management type solution, yes, it is. But if you are a super user or an administrator and I'm a hacker, who am I going to target? The standard user or the super user or power user or super admin user, whatever you call them? Of course, I'm going to try to target these super users because they have access to all of these applications. They can manage all these applications. So you have to protect these. And again, with a true identity and access management type product, you could block that. So that means that with the social media, mobility, cloud, and big data, and so on and so forth, all of the individual threats that are targeting these 4 different pillars become more and more connected. So it's becoming more and more complex for you to protect, and obviously for us vendors to catch the bad guys, and preventing the bad guys to actually come in. And there's one thing that was quite interesting. Yesterday I was in Brussels with Belgian people, and we had CIOs, so people like yourself, or I don't know if you're a CIO, but like from the IT department. And one of the things they were looking at from a security point of view was the insider threat. So in other words, spies. How do you know that within your organization there isn't someone who is joining your group and is actually who has malicious intention? How would you react? What's your disaster recovery plan in that case? Obviously, for an SME company, that's maybe not too much of an issue, but if you are a decent-sized business, the insider threats is becoming more and more of an issue, and it's becoming more and more difficult to identify. And at Dell, we actually have a program to predict and look at the behavior of employees and find out whether it's some kind of Chinese guy who works for the Chinese government. And this is a serious issue, because we operate in all the countries in the world. How do I know that Bart is actually not from a competitor? So we have a lot of work going on from that point of view, trying to be more predictive from a security. We all speak about zero-day type of attack. Is it really effective, zero-day? No. Maybe you want to know -1 or -2, -10 days. So then when the shit happens, pardon my French, you already did put in place the measures to counter that specific attack. And we've acquired a company, actually it's quite interesting what's happening at Dell. We acquired a company about a month ago called StatSoft. And it's an analytic product. And from a security point of view, as you will see later, we have a couple of products that's collecting millions, billions of events on a daily basis. So with StatSoft, we're actually analyzing all of this data, big data in a way, to try to bring more predictive security to our customers. It's like we have a crystal ball, and I can tell you that tomorrow you're going to be hacked. But he's not listening. He's looking at his laptop. Where is my flicker? Anyway, so moving on. The problem is that most of companies, what they've done is they've deployed security when you actually had a problem. So it was done more on a reactive point of view than a proactive point of view. Oh, 10, 15 years ago, my colleague's laptop got infected. Oh, let's put some kind of client AV solution, Symantec, Trend, McAfee, you name it. Oh, shit, someone hacked into the network. Oh, let's put a firewall in there, and then maybe let's put an IPS. So all of this that you did that, or most companies did that in reaction of a bad event, but not from a predictive point of view. So that means that what happens today is all of these key security products that you have deployed are not connected. They're ignoring each other. They do a good job at this, but they don't really speak to the other solutions. If we look, the best analogy I could think of is well, I know we don't really like Germany here, but who won the World Cup? Germany. Why? They are very good players, and they played as a team, and they played for nearly 10 years together, while Holland didn't play because most of the guys tried to play for themselves. Or Brazil, or maybe you disagree with me, I don't care, I'm French. But take Brazil, they have best-of-breed players. I'm running out of time, but on paper, yeah? But the analogy is like they are very good players, but who don't play together, who don't listen to each other, who didn't really act based on what their other partners were doing. And with security, most companies have a Brazil type of approach, when Brazil loses, of course. Yeah? Everything is done in silos, and silos introducing gaps, or introducing gaps. So the idea of Dell, from a security point of view, so obviously doing this could be risky, it can be very expensive, of course, because you have to maintain multiple systems that might be redundant or out of date, and it's very expensive. So what Dell is doing from a security point of view is definitely closing these gaps. We'll see how. Indeed, enabling employees, so your users or yourself, to do your job on a daily basis without compromising, without exposing the company to any potential security problems. And then indeed, well, it's not in the same order, but being compliant, because obviously compliance is still driving security and budget. So really, it's like about protecting your network, so protecting bad people to come into the network, protecting the good guys doing bad stuff, that's with our identity and access management solutions, making sure that your employees can do their job, are more productive, more flexible, and so on and so forth, and that you can comply to whatever compliance requirements and regulation that you have. And indeed, we started Dell Security, or the Dell Security roadmap is new. We started about 2 years ago. But it's already putting Dell in different position than our traditional competitors, being McAfee, or Fortinet, or Symantec, or Trend Micro, or even HP, or Cisco. Yeah? We have a more, I would say, complete, holistic approach to security than most of our competitors. So how does that work on paper, really? I mean, through acquisition, we acquired SonicWall 2 years ago, so next generation firewall, secure mobile access solutions, email security. Through the Quest acquisition, here, we have an identity and access management solution suite. Then we acquired in December 2012 a company called Credent, and they actually do data protection and encryption. And again, what would be your dream? I don't know if you're in security or not, but the dream of any kind of IT security professional would be to embed security not only on the hardware, like Intel would tell you, because they have to sell their stuff, or McAfee, but on the data, at the data level, because you don't care then where the data is, whether it's on your network, in the cloud, or on that device. Is actually protected, is encrypted, yeah? And that's what Dell data protection and encryption offers. And then finally, part of the fourth pillar of our security offering is Dell SecureWorks. So it's a managed service, 24/7, 365 days a year, not a day. And they will be able to manage all of your IT security infrastructure. So most companies don't have the knowledge, the budget, nor the human resources power to do that. And that's where these guys come into play. So customers would include small companies like, I don't know, Credit Suisse or Nokia. So they manage all of their IT security infrastructure on the weekly, well, on the permanent basis. Okay? And then in terms of, to give you the size of Dell security, so if you look at the different offering that we have, they're all part of some of the Gartner Magic Quadrants. These are the number of individual security incidents that we treat on a daily basis. I don't want to bore you with details, but it's big. If you look at SecureWorks, in addition to all these big customers I named, they have about 4,000 customers worldwide. SonicWall, we have about 2 million security appliances deployed around the world. So that means we are definitely collecting incident malwares all around the world on a daily basis. So that makes us that put us in a very strong position to be able to be more predictive from a security point of view than just being reactive and protecting customers after the incident has happened. Okay. So now if we look at what we do from an OpenStack point of view, really the challenge with OpenStack is to deliver security solutions that will guarantee efficiency. So that's more from a firewall standpoint. Because a lot of firewall vendors already have virtual firewalls. The reality is, in most cases, it's actually useless. Companies don't want it, doesn't want to use it, doesn't want to implement it. Why? Because with a virtual firewall, if it's not done in a proper way, you will not be able to control the performance. And if you cannot sustain and define the performances that you need from that virtual instances of the firewall, then your security will go down. So it's probably better not even to have a firewall in that case. So the approach we are taking that's where you need to cut, by the way. Thank you. Thank you, Paul.